Hello, hello, hello. I never tire of my intro with my cat Idris meowing at the front. I just love it. Because that's his meow recorded. And every time I do it, I just love it. But hello, hello, hello. And we are live and we have already got Amber joining us. Hi, Amber. Thank you so much. Do let us know where you're from. And I am so happy to be back with my really good friend, Chantel from Aquarius Rising Africa 2 and Solutions with Aquarius Rising. Obviously, yes, all Chantel's links will be below. And those of you that are regular listeners to the channel, today I'm going back to streaming live and I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, actually, which I've never done before. So I've no idea whether anyone will join us for that. But I'm experimenting with technology. And I'm really happy to be back doing lives because we always have such good discussions, Chantel. So before we delve into our subject today, for those people that are new to our channel, my channel, just give a little bit about how you're doing and a little bit about yourself.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea. Wow. But it's nice to be here with you, Catherine, while we're waiting for people to join. It's really good to be here with you. And I always, as you say, always enjoy having our chats. And I'm really happy we're having them more regularly. Now, I think this is the third week in a row, right?
Yeah.
That we're actually having our Friday afternoon chinwag. And I think we should make this a regular thing. One week on yours and 1 week on mine. Yeah, I think that's a cool idea. And Carol Castor, I know you often on some of my shows as well. So good to see you there. Yeah.
Yeah, let us know, everyone, where you're joining from. And Chantel, so we've been speaking. I agree. We'll definitely be making this a regular thing. We're going to alternate, a bit like I do with Bryce on Esoteric Atlanta. 1 week will be on my channel, then the next week will be on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. So for those people that are new or are watching this on the replay, how did you start doing what you're doing? How did you start? What made you decide to start your YouTube channel? Because obviously you've been in the healing modalities for years, long before you went online with that.
Absolutely. Wow. And I know I've been a healer for 20 years and I've created my own style of doing things. I was just born with this desire I was hearing the voices of animals. I was able to see beyond the physical realms, and obviously picked up a lot of nonsense from a lot of people, especially in conservative South Africa, accused of being the devil's child and gosh knows what all else. But it's really, as I've gone along in my life, I've created my own style called Source Alchemy, which is understanding the human spirit and that everything really, lead is designed to become gold, and not in the way on a physical level where it's done physically, but it's spiritual alchemy. So it's understanding that your greatest pains can become your greatest empowering tools or your greatest tools for empowerment. And once you've understood that, it becomes quite an easy process. Nothing can be destroyed and nothing can be created. Everything already is, right? So it's up to us to change the situations in our lives that we are not happy with. I mean, we can't change the past. Not even God can change the past. But what we can do is change our perception around it. And what we can do is understand that a lot of people see the devil in everything, so to speak. I see God in everything. One of the greatest catalysts for my spiritual journey was my fiance at the time being killed in a hijacking. And that for me was, as a South African, you either become a statistic of that or you can turn it into something, you can mold your gold, as I say. And I chose to mold my gold when it came to that. So, and this is the gift that has brought me, because had it not been for that situation, I probably wouldn't be doing things in the way that I am. I'm not saying I wouldn't have done what I'm doing, but in the way that I am. So that has kind of led me to the place of definitely 3 years ago when this whole pandemic started, in September, in fact. I was watching, listening to Jesse Zabota, who's trained to be the Queen Mother of Darkness, being interviewed on David Zublik's show. And I was like, wow, I have to speak to this girl. And it was just amazing how it happened, because that was really what started Aquarius Rising Africa. And we've been struck a few times, and plenty of our videos have been struck. So, yeah, exactly. So we kind of just pulled up, and, then I also have solutions, which is more the healing. Aquarius Rising is where we expose the exposed stuff. And we have like the adoption, which forced adoptions is really stolen children that are taken into trafficking. And then that I do with Kerry Saint from Australia. So she's the anchor for that part of it. And then I have Alice Parola, who's a product of that. She's the daughter of a homosexual pedophile, and the mental trauma that comes from all of that. So it all fits in together, and Caleb Jade, who's this combat warrior that's he's been through the entire Luciferian system as a warrior, been trained in all 9 levels of magic, has had the darkest of dark world, and has come out and now telling his story. I mean, if there's any truth to be heard from anyone behind the scenes, that guy has experienced it all, not just little bits, but he's experienced it all and come through, right? So for me, and then of course, meeting people like you and Bryce along the way, who are just soul sisters, we kind of enjoy the same things, similar things, and just it's so good to be able to meet the tribe and our team, right, from across the world. So it's a great fun experience having this channel, I have to say. It's very healing, and it's just beautiful. So thank you for being my friend, Catherine.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for everyone joining us. And Amber, I've got my green tea here. I'm joining you as you drink your coffee. And the reason we wanted to do, well, I know Chanti does most, and Mornay do most of theirs live, but I want to start doing it more, is I'm really missing that audience interaction. And a lot of what you've just said and the journey all of us, with all of you listening, have been on, is really so apt for what we've been discussing. Bit of reflection on there. But last week we discussed on your channel, Chanti, the 4 agreements written by Don Miguel Ruiz and Don Jose Ruiz. And I've been lucky enough to have Don Jose as a guest on my show, Shamanic Healing and Power Animals. Have a look at that if anyone that hasn't. And actually, a long while ago, probably 2 years ago, I have got a playlist on my channel discussing the 4 agreements and the 5th agreement with Jamie Saleh. And Jamie and I had a lovely discussion. But the reason we came back to it, you and I, is because we're realizing that so much of what we're all learning on this journey is so relevant. And when we come up stuck, we can really refer back to the 4 agreements and now the 5th agreement. Absolutely. So last week, I'll put the link below when this live stream's ended, to the discussion that Chanti and I had last week on her channel, where we discussed the 4 agreements. And today we're going to be discussing the 5th agreement. So those of you in the chat, please do let us know. Are you familiar with Don Miguel's work? Have you read the book? And if so, is it like us, one you keep coming back to? So Chanti, before we delve into the 5th agreement, I'm just going to run through quickly, if that's all right for people, the first 4, because we're going to be referring back to those. So the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. And I'm just reading out the little summary that's at the start of the book. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. The second agreement, don't take anything personally. Oh, struggle with that. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality and their own dream. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Agreement 3, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstanding, sadness, and drama. Listen, everyone, avoid that drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. Fourth
Exactly.
agreement, always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be difficult when you're healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstances, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse and regret. And what we're going to be discussing today, the fifth agreement, be skeptical, but learn to listen. Don't believe
Exactly.
yourself or anyone else. Use the power of doubt to question everything you hear. Is it really the truth? Listen to the intent behind the words and you'll understand the real message. And I jokingly put in the title, for those of you that saw it, about because there's an Uncensored with Piers Morgan. And I was listening to one of those where they were discussing the Israel-Palestine situation this morning. And it was just, I had to switch it off, because to think that people go on in everyday life, Chanti, and let us know in the chat what you're experiencing this, that people just don't listen anymore, do they? It's not a conversation. It's normally a shouting match. What do you think is going on there, Chanti, and how important is this fifth agreement to you?
Well, absolutely. You know, for me, and I must say, you know, I'm quite excitable when I get annoyed or whatever. And I mean, that's been my trigger in life, is that I'm reactive, right? I'm not one of these that I'm not greedy. I don't go after money. You know what I'm saying? That's never been my thing. But because of my background and my, you know, being a sensitive child, born into a family where I had spiritual gifts, going to a very conservative school, for example, and being told Jesus hates me and I'm the devil's child, it bred in me a very reactive nature. So I would react long before I thought about something. So it's been quite a journey for me, I have to say. And that also comes in with assumptions, right? So for me, I would make that assumption that they immediately being nasty to me or trying to undermine me or whatever it might be, or trying to make out like I'm stupid or, you know, attacking me. So that was my assumption, right? And in that way, I would then be reactive. So I wouldn't listen properly. I wouldn't integrate properly. And I would then also go on the attack. And I have to say, I'm still not 100% over that. There are definitely moments, especially with my family, I'm not going to lie, that I have those reactions. But I'm aware of it, and it is getting better as I'm getting older. But I think that's what age does, right? It gives you a little bit of wisdom if you choose to use it, or if you choose to use wisdom and become wise as you grow older. And I think 50 is a wonderful thing. I mean, you know, I remember the day I turned 50, I just was the most happy. I just thought, I knew that 50 was somehow a rite of passage. And, you know, you kind of, it's like put you on a different level where you understand the world differently. You start understanding people differently. I was a grandmother by then, you know, just being able to enjoy my granddaughter and be that person for her, you know, that person that little thing trusted and could come to. And still to this day, she knows I'm there, you know, she can trust me. And I think that has come with time. But, you know, I mean, you talk about Piers Morgan, and we were just kind of talking a little bit off air. And as much as what I like Piers Morgan, there are certain things I like about him for sure, because I'm a conservative girl with an open mind, right? So I do have lots of conservative values, but he does not let people speak. And then the guests on his show end up shouting at each other. He shouts them down. No one is listening to anyone. I think in the time that we're living in, Catherine, so much is changing, right? I mean, if we're just looking at this whole transgenderism, and I know that's a big thing the ones I've watched a lot of, right, are these people coming in with their pronouns and what have you and stuff like that. Although I agree with him, and I definitely disagree with a lot of this stuff happening, yeah. I do believe that everyone has a right to be heard. I do believe that these kids that have got these issues have probably not been heard. And they probably feel very misunderstood, which I can identify with. So I think as a healer and as a mentor, the one thing I've understood in life is that people need to be heard. I can't tell you how many times I've sat with people, and usually the first time they'll come and see me, I just let them talk. For 90 minutes, they just talk. They'll tell me about their life, even if I might think it's BS and I want to chime in a million times and say, well, that's wrong, because if you tried it like that, that comes later on, right? But also not what you say, but how you say it. And again, that comes in being impeccable with your word. Now, if you're listening to someone and if you're understanding where their heart is, right, you can be impeccable with your word. You can cultivate that empathy and that compassion for them. It's that need to be right. I think that's what it is mostly, is we all want to be right. No one wants to be an idiot and say, okay, you're right, I'm wrong. Few people actually, that's just our ego speaking at the end of the day, right? So I think a lot of it is ego, the need to be right, and the need to be heard, and the need to feel important. And I think that more than anything, in my opinion, is probably what's going on with a lot of this type of stuff right now. I'm not sure. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I agree. I just want to ping up some of the comments as well. Thank you, ladies, for contributing. I love that, Amber, that this conflict has really just shown how reactive people still are. And it's helped you tune out and focus personally. I really, really love that. That's such a good thing. Yeah. And I'm really with you, Chanti, that I think we're the same age, and I love being in my 50s at all. So many people find it, but for me, it's such a special time because you do learn so much. There's a reason why teenagers are reacting. They're finding themselves. But the point is if we're still acting like we were in the teenagers years when we're 50, then we haven't learned many lessons along the way. And this is why I love this, be skeptical, but learn to listen, because so many people that are joining us today, and thank you for all of us that are, is we think we're waking up. We're starting to get that skeptical side of things. We're starting to question everything we've been taught. And for a lot of us, we've been doing that all our lives. It just hasn't been acceptable to do that. But actually, Bryce and I had a really good chat about this yesterday. It's like you can refuse one thing and jump into the same behavior pattern on other sides of information as well, and suddenly take all of that as gospel, as the truth. And what I love is when you listen to Don Miguel and Don Jose talk about this being skeptical and learn to listen. The skeptical, a lot of people, I think of skeptical as a negative word, as a derogatory word, but it's just really, to me, and in the way that I understand that they mean it, about keeping that genuine questioning without being attached to the results. And look at it with the science, look at it with everything, this nonsense that we've had over the last 3 years. If all of us had genuinely listened more to each other and try and understand where the other people are coming from, we could all learn so much more from each other and be so much constructive. I'll give one example of the, calling everyone sheep, which, as I've said numerous times, I think is so insulting to sheep.
Exactly. They're such gorgeous creatures. They are so beautiful. I mean, they're so sociable.
Yeah. And I think, this is the thing about, it's that fine line, isn't it, between learning to listen and really actively listening. When I was in the corporate world, we did so many courses on active listening, and it's so important because what you said is everyone wants to be heard, but equally, if you're the person speaking, then it's having enough understanding and skills to actually let the other people be heard as well. It not just all be about you. Asea Reader's Answers, we're dealing with so much generational conditioning. Absolutely. And isn't it great when we can try and be the grown-ups and try and break that?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And Asea, I agree with you. We're dealing with so much generational conditioning. If we think about the older generations, right? I mean, children were pretty much seen and not heard, right? So you were told what to do, and you were told how to do it, when to do it, and kicked out of the house when the grown-ups were there, and you couldn't be in a conversation with them. So you kind of, like in their company a lot of the time, depending on your your setup and what have you. But I really think it's suddenly, I think the youth of today, the younger people, generation Z, I think, or Z, I would say Z, but the Americans call it Z. We're dealing with a lot of kids that have finally actually had enough of being seen and not heard. And I think it's difficult. I've also got my opinions on that, because I do believe pretty much as the human species, we're under siege right now. And I do believe a lot of the stuff is to do with MK Ultra as well. It's designed for these end times, where it really is. We know that we're in huge spiritual warfare at the moment. So I do believe that this is all part of that as well. So how do we end that? For me, it's really about understanding. And again, it's about compassion, empathy, and listening. And again, I love that. Be skeptical. And I call it discernment, right?
Yeah.
So discernment to me is having farsight or foresight, so you can see things and perceive things from an external way, if you will, but at the same time having insight. So the insight or the understanding, and I hate that word because it's, people always talk about understanding. It's become such an airy-fairy word to me, Oh, can you understand me? No, I don't understand you. Do you understand you? That's for me what it is, So, what is happening within you? The inspiration rather than motivation, because inspiration or insight is your own soul or your higher being speaking to you. Motivation is someone else kicking your ass saying, you can do it, yes, boom, go, run. Even though you've got no capacity to run, someone will tell you to run and you think you've got to do it because otherwise you're letting someone else down. That's also not the way to do it. So you want to understand, have the foresight or the farsight to see the result or the potential or the perception, but at the same time, the insight or being in alignment with your own true spirit. And those two need to match. So it's not believing any bullshit anyone tells you. It's not believing Q and the white hats are coming to save you and Trump is the hero of the world. It's understanding that is not happening. That is a psyop, in my opinion. You are the one that needs to get out of your own way in order for things to happen. You are the one that needs to clear your own path through right action, right words, being impeccable with your word, doing your best, right? So all of these things will lead you to that place where you can understand and you are skeptical enough not to believe what everyone is telling you. You have sufficient doubt to question and go, okay, cool. Well, that does resonate with me. Not just blindly be led by the nose and go, okay, cool. Here I am now what? Meanwhile, that's pretty much the way I see it.
Yeah, there's so many things there that I really, really agree with. And, Bryce and I were having the chat yesterday about the psyops of being led for, on both sides of the argument of being made to be sick, weak in mind, weak in body, because then you cannot really be discerning or skeptical. If your physical body is really out of balance, there's so much research now. I love it with my biology head on with the microbiome. And the microbiome is a bit like having the two gremlins on your shoulder. So you've got the good gremlin and then you've thrown water on the gremlin and you've got the naughty gremlin. I love gremlins. And what I mean by that is it's like the old, the lovely Native American proverb is which wolf is going to survive? The one you feed. And for me, the whole thing about skeptical is there's so many different ways you can be it. And this is where really understanding the full meaning of all 5 agreements to me comes in, because you can be skeptical with an attitude and an energy of looking for an argument, or you can be skeptical, as is meant in their book, of really looking to listen to say, what can I learn from here? What new perspective can I gain from? And so the energy behind you do all these things is so, so important, because it shifts literally everything. And we all know what it's like to be in conversation with someone that is just desperately waiting to get their point in. They're not listening. They're just desperately waiting to prove you wrong. And unfortunately, I think the art of good conversation and good listening has been lost so much because, you know, everyone's addicted to their devices. People don't feel heard. They don't feel listened to. A lot of the reason is, let alone what's happening in the family environment or the schooling environment, but look at what's happening on the world stage. No one trusts the leaders anymore. No one trusts the mainstream media. Well, some people do, but the people watching this don't. So when all that level of trust goes, I'd like your opinion, and anyone in the chats, about how do you get this balance right between being skeptical with a view to really learn, listen and improve, and being skeptical as just a Debbie Downer that just literally just wants to pour water and doubt over everything?
Well, for me, being that skeptical Debbie Downer is really someone who has no trust, who's probably been lost, you know, and been hurt, or whatever the case might be, and lied to, or whatever. You know, each person, there'll be a unique situation for each person. But this is really where, you know, when we do what we call obviously the shadow work or the inner work, that you start getting to know yourself. As you get to know yourself, your confidence grows. And as your confidence grows, you trust yourself more. Trust is never about the other person, ever, ever. Trust comes from you and your source or your higher being. And, you know, the more you practice that trust, the more you know, when you get that little inkling, get in your car and leave now. And then you follow that gut instinct, and then you'll get to the shop 5 minutes later, and just by chance you happen to see that person who you haven't seen for 20 years and who has exactly the right product or the right information for you that you need to take your business the next step further. Now, the more we follow, for example, stuff like that, you start trusting your inner voice. Then that, like anything, will expand and it gains momentum. I've started learning more and more and more and more over the years to trust that voice within me. Sometimes you don't even know. Maybe it's you would be avoiding an accident, or maybe, you know, it could be anything really, you know. So it's really learning how to trust your own inner voice, because when you've learned how to trust that own inner voice, you don't need to trust people, because you'll walk into a situation and go, so I always say I've got a big nose, right? And, nah, that don't smell so nice. I'm not going down there. Thank you very much. You know, why would I want to go where it smells like poo? No, I don't like that smell. So I'm going to not take that opportunity right now, but thank you anyway. Why are you not doing it? It looks so beautiful, right? You know, there's so much icing on this cake. I don't like buttercream icing. Thank you very much. I prefer cream and caramel. I'll go for that. Do you know what I'm saying? So you don't necessarily need to know why you're not going down that road, but you trust in your inner self to know that you're not going down that road. And invariably, we then get to the point of seeing the results of our own inner work, because it really is about doing the inner work. And the inner work is not just painful stuff, dealing with childhood traumas or whatever. Yes, that's a big part of it. We can never deny that. I mean, we're human beings. We're living on this earth. We all we have to do is look around us to see how true and how real that is. It's also having fun, you know, going out with your friends, having a drink, having 1 or 2 glasses of wine, too much, you know, but just having fun and letting your hair down and just getting that energy flowing, you know, because that fun energy, that beautiful energy is also what carries you through. It doesn't have to be the hard stuff and sitting in, not at all. You find that balance, right? And then you meet the right people at the right time. So for me, it's, you know, it's layered. It's multifaceted and it's layered. And when you learn how to trust yourself, because you've done a lot of what you know you need to be doing, you don't need to worry about anything. That's the point I'm making. It doesn't mean you don't have issues. It doesn't mean things don't ever go wrong. It just means that when stuff like that happens, you know you have the tools within you to deal with it. And you know that you have the support in your friend circle or your family or whatever that is going to be there for you if you need them. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So
I love this that Sean's asked. I don't know whether you're Sean or Seen, Sean. So I'm calling you Sean because that's how I pronounce it. What are your thoughts on the need for a spiritual daily practice? I practice and teach this as being so important as it gives us a solid foundation for inner wellness. I'm 100% with you there. You know, your daily habits really determine your outcome for not only the day, but your life. And I'm a huge believer in the miracle morning, in, you know, setting yourself up for success in the day, and the consistency of good habits that can, you know, feed your mind, feed your body, feed your soul with things that are really going to set you on the right vibrational path for success, which will then resonate out much wider than yourself. Have you got anything else to add to that, Chanti?
Yeah, I call it my power hour. You call it the miracle morning. I've always called it power hour. You know, to get up in the morning, and the first thing you don't do is look at your phone or your email or whatever. Get in the habit of not doing that first thing in the morning. Get in the habit of creating that morning space in order to raise your frequency, because how you start your morning determines the rest of your day. So what I do, you know, the first thing, the Buddhists have got this thing. The first thing they do is they make their bed. The first thing I do is make my bed. That for me is something I learned from the monks when I was in Thailand. Always make your bed. First thing, make your bed. And then I will oil pull. All right, I do oil pulling. And then I'll rinse my nostrils and my sinuses with the neti pot, right? That's an old yogic thing. I'll either have my lemon and ginger water, or I'll make what I call my lemon bomb, which is the lemon and cinnamon and everything. That's how I start my day. So, and then I feed my animals and I feed the birds, and I'll tidy up a little bit, and then I'll sit down and I'll just journal if I need to. If something's upset me, I'll sit and I'll write about it. I'll face it. I might not get the answer in the here and the now. I do a once a week dry fast. Man, oh man, is that powerful. And it's the way the Native Americans do it. We do it dusk from Tuesday until dusk on Wednesday, where you don't eat or you actually don't have water. Now, for me, fasting is easy. I don't mean to sound like I'm easy peasy, but I've been doing it for a while, and I don't really like to eat much, I'll be honest with you. But when I do eat, trust me, I eat, okay? But it's easy for me not to eat. So it's easy for me to do a 3-day water fast, because whenever I get a little bit peckish, I'll just glug away at 500 mils of water or something, right? And I have that discipline for me. I've cultivated that over the years. Dry fasting, it's really, where you actually don't have the water, but literally if it's hot or something, I literally put a crushed ice on my tongue, or literally rinse my mouth out with water, or have a small sip that just kind of lubricates my mouth. And it's amazing, Catherine. The breakthroughs I've had from doing that. And there's a lot of people on my channels now doing that as well, because we've put that out there, fasting for faith, So it's amazing to be able to do that. And the more of us who do it together, that's how we get our breakthroughs. That's how you become a better conduit for spirit. Because as long as you're full of junk in your trunk, your body is designed. Your body is the most precious gem you're ever going to possess. So even if you think it's just a meat suit, it's not a meat suit. It's a very, very, very intelligent gem. The most intelligent gem you're ever going to possess. So when you start treating it as such, right? And when you start cherishing, and again, please, I'm not anal, okay? I love my cake and I love things like that. Trust me, I do. So I'm not, and I love my pizza and what have you. But I don't do it every day. I'll have it like once every 2 weeks or something, and I'll really enjoy it. You know what I mean? I like to find balance like that. So for me, that balance where I don't deprive myself of anything, I don't. I've decided how I want to eat, what works for me, what doesn't. Over the years, I've figured that out, and to enjoy a little bit of everything that life has to offer me. So for me, that works. And yes, there are the difficult days where you, as I said, when you do the dry fasting or any type of fasting, fasting is difficult for a lot of people. But, when you see the results, because it's like moving beyond the little hunger, as the Bushmen call it. The little hunger is the food that you eat, right? And then you tap into the great hunger, which is the hunger for purpose, the hunger for knowledge, the hunger for spiritual wisdom, right? And that's what it brings you. So the more of us who actually allow ourselves to do that, collectively, we all get that knowledge together, because when a whole group of us are actually sitting and doing it together, it makes a huge difference, as opposed to just one of us. So that whole collective consciousness, and when we're thinking in a similar vein, that's when things start happening, and that's when things start changing. So it's an amazing thing.
I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I've just launched my Happy Gut nutrition course, because when we understand how, as you say, just how much our bodies are speaking to us, and it's the intent, it comes back to what Sean was saying about the daily habits. It's about the respect that you're showing yourself. And this isn't about depriving yourself, but when you start... You just fit, yeah.
Sorry, I've got a dove that's just been trapped in my house.
Oh, good. You go and throw that. I'll carry on talking. Please rescue the dove. Yeah, I think this is why it's so important to actually really look after your physical. Is it okay? Is it okay? We need the dove back.
Yeah, check it out. They come in and they eat my cat's food, and then they get caught.
Looking after your mind is so, so important, and really understanding and giving yourself sort of that reset button to really start getting the gratitude back in your food, home preparing it, really understanding and listening to your body, what it's telling you. I've put Carol's comment up on stage. Thank you, Carol. Because I think this is a really important one, Chanti, and it goes very much with what we're talking about with all 5 of the agreements in terms of for people. And there's a lot of people still stuck in that angry stage and upset about the lies and the injustice. I mean, when we look at the be impeccable with your word, not taking anything personally, not making assumptions, always do your best, be skeptical and learn to listen. There's so much that can help people like Carol stuck in that angry stage, isn't there, Chanti?
Absolutely. Let's look at what anger is. Anger is a mask for fear or pain. So when you take away the angry mask, just to visualize yourself taking away this angry mask, what is behind that? What fear and what pain? Because that is how we start doing the inner work. So maybe the pain of being deceived, the fear that you don't know who to trust, etc. You see, that's exactly that for me. And if you were my client or student, I'd be saying to you, okay, use that as your kryptonite. Use your anger as your kryptonite to see what in you is being triggered. So is it because others are lying to you? Maybe you've been lied to before. Maybe your parents lied to you. Maybe your school lied to you, whatever. And I can tell you something now, when we start looking behind the scenes really deeply, we have been lied to in the worst possible ways. This is the planet where we as human beings have been deceived. We've been duped. Again, I just love listening to Caleb Jade, because he's been in the system, and he will tell you how they specifically give us food to dumb us down, how they specifically give us medication to dumb us down, because that's how they gain control over humanity. Now, when we understand that as humans, we are slaves to the controllers right now, and we have been for many, many, many years, more than a century. So now, are we going to get angry? Because anger, there's 2 frequencies, or there's two basic emotions, right? Camps, love, and love has no opposite, but for the layman, let's call it fear. Right? So love is all giving. Fear is all drains your energy. So now you get to choose. Because no matter what you're fearing, anger is a part of fear, right? So doesn't matter what you're angry at. You can be so justifiably angry. But the bottom line is, like you were saying earlier on, Catherine, what wolf do you feed? The positive or the negative one, right? The anger feeds the negative cycle. So even if you are justifiably angry, you're still feeding the negative cycle, and that's what these guys want. And I want to just point something out to you as well. When we understand the spirituality of this stuff, these guys that are controlling us, right? The psychopaths, call it that. Whether you call them lizard beings or psychopaths or organic portals or whatever it is you're choosing to call them, right? We understand they do not have the ability to manifest. They are super smart. This AI mecha is like literally the Antichrist, the AI mecha, this whole AI system that they brought in. That is pretty much the Antichrist.
Absolutely.
So they cannot manifest. But we as humans, and they are farming us, right? We as humans, because of our consciousness, we are masterful creators. We are masterful manifestors. So what do? They tell us what they want. So let's look at The Simpsons, right? Let's look at South Park, where they've done all this predictive stuff. They predicted, for example, Trump was president. They predicted when the Queen died. They predicted all sorts of things. And you listen to Jesse Zaberto, who will tell you they have these programs called The Looking Glass, The Voice of God, and something to do with Star Wars Now. There are 3 programs that they would get these kids with spiritual gifts in the system. And these kids they will only take the hierarchy kids with spiritual gifts. And rest assured, these kids are tested to the T. So they then get these kids working in different cells. And some will see the past, some will see the present, and some will see the future. It's a probable outcome. And they get these kids to predict the probable outcomes. They then take that and they put it into The Simpsons or South Park. So what happens, right? Energy goes where attention goes where energy flows. So now you've got 4 million people watching South Park. Trump is president in 2020 or whatever it was, right? And everyone goes, oh, Trump's president in 2020. What happens then? We manifest for them. We manifest what they want. They give us what they want. And because of our energy, and because, as I said, right, energy goes where attention flows, or attention flows where energy goes.
Yeah.
So then we've already created for them. That's how they do it. That's how clever they are. Now, my point is, how do we stop that? Turn off your TV, turn off your radio, stop listening to that crap, because that's how it is. Go within, join our own communities, grow your food, grow your veggies, start communities. What do you want? What do you want? And who can help you in your community get what you want? So in order for us to create a different world in the one that we want, we've got to ask ourselves, what do we want? And when we know what we want, we then go out and manifest it, because we are masterful creators. And they have been using us to manifest for a very long time. It's as simple as that.
I love that. Thank you so much for everyone that's interacting. And Carol, I've got to really thank you for interacting, because Carol's saying, doesn't that make you angry? Now, I'm going to be really honest here and actually say, no, it doesn't anymore. But just like Chanti shared at the start, Carol, I am a reactive person. I must have some Italian blood in there somewhere. And I'm not going to die of suppressed emotions. I'll tell you that much, because I don't suppress my emotions. So, but in all seriousness, this is one of the biggest steps forward that I completely get where you're coming from, Carol, completely. But this is where
I've got another dove. Sorry, I've got another dove. I'm just going to carry on.
This is weird how the doves are coming in to join us, but we don't want them to get hurt, so we must let Chanti go. So I think it's really great that you're recognizing that, Carol. And what I can say is, when I've literally, this is why I keep coming back to the 4 agreements and the 5th agreement, because when I really go and dig deep into these, and if you haven't read it, please do, because it's just the most wonderful little book. So much wisdom in such a simple way. When you stop taking things personally, for me, once I've got that understanding of what's going on, rather than going into anger now, I don't go there, which was my old go-to. I now go and then to, oh, thank goodness, now what do I want? So part of manifesting, and Chanti and I had a really good chat about that 2 weeks ago on my channel. So please do look back up for that one. It will really help you, I think, Carol, where when you actually recognize that feeling and then you can do the conscious inner work to redirect it to what you do want. And it just gets easier and easier and easier. So there's things that definitely make me sad. You know, I can't bear to see anyone suffering, you know, of whatever species, whether it's one of my aloe vera plants, a guinea pig, or a human, makes no difference to me. And I think, you know, one of the things that I still feel sadness about is the fact that we're still so human centric in our outlook on things, and all the discussions are very much still centered around humanity and what's best for humanity, which leaves out the whole of the rest of nature. And actually, if you look at the Oxford Dictionary, I think it is definition of humanity, it's everything outside of nature, which says it all. So for me, I think that's a shift that we're really missing a trick on. But I think the fact that you're recognizing that you feel that, Carol, is the main thing. And then you can transmute that into, okay, what am I physically going to go up and do that feels constructive, that's putting the energy into what I do want, what I don't want. I hope that helps. Yeah. Interesting.
I see
the doves.
this, Catherine. For me, I see. Yeah, exactly. Two. And the other one was in my bedroom. So I had to go fetch it out in my bedroom. And my cat's sitting on the bed just looking at it. My cats know they're not allowed to catch the doves. I said, you don't eat your family. They are family. And then you see my one cat stalking them in the morning. And when she sees me, she just sits there and pretends like she's not doing anything. It's hilarious, actually. But what I wanted to say about this is, you know, let's turn this around, okay? And we understand, you know, a lot of people will see, for example, the devil in everything, so to speak. I see God in everything. When my fiance was killed in a hijacking, for me, it was like, there's so much growth. How can I use this as my kryptonite? And I knew then, for example, I wanted to work with people. And I remember thinking, if today was my last day on earth, how would I like to spend it? And I thought, well, if every day, you know, from everyone, if there was my last day on earth, how would I like to spend it? So for me, you look at situations like this, and we got to see that as opportunities for growth. Because anger is a low vibrating frequency. It's going to keep you low. It's going to keep you in that shitty, crappy place. Excuse my language. It's going to keep you, and not just with the controllers, but it's going to keep you there and with maybe your work situation, with staff that you're working with, your family maybe. It doesn't just start and end there, right? There's that complete situation that you are now challenged to get yourself out of. Because when you can transcend that through your own inner wisdom, you're going to be dealing on a whole different level now. You're going to be free of that anger. Your consciousness has expanded. Your frequency is lifted. Your insight is different. You're not held there by that anymore, because law of attraction states energy will always attract its same vibration. Now, whether you look at law of attraction or law of correspondence, pretty much the same thing. Pretty much the same thing. So when you are angry, you're putting out the, and the one thing that never lies is your energy, ever. I mean, you can have all the Gucci's and the Jimmy Choos and the whatever designer gear you want to be wearing and looking the part physically, but your energy is going to be putting that out there, and you're going to be attracting people, situations, circumstances that match that. And if you haven't understood that it's coming from you yet, you're going to keep being caught up in that place of attracting angry people or situations that make you angry or whatever. So every person that comes into your life, and if you're not liking what that person's bringing to you, then you've got to say, the very thing I'm not liking in you is what I need to heal inside of me. So if I keep attracting betrayal, for example, that makes you angry, The question I would say is, well, where have you betrayed you into believing that this is the best that life has to offer you? Where have you sold yourself short into thinking that there's no way out of here? Now, many of us have been conditioned by family or schools or whatever it might be. Well, I was brought up that way. I can't, no. That's no excuse. Even if you were brought up that way, that was probably not the right way. Your parents might have done a fantastic job trying to raise you. So we're not blaming them. They were just kind of like duplicating and replicating what they were taught, right? But you have a brain. You've got a spirit, you've got a soul, you've got major masterful intelligence within you that you can change that outcome if you choose. Then start reading different books. Start listening to it flips their script. Exactly, and that's what we want here. And everything you've been told, do the opposite thereof. Everything you've been told, do the opposite thereof. That's what I'm saying. You will feel much freer, much happier. For me, dealing with a lot of survivors and overcomers, and rest assured, many of them have had horrific situations. And these guys and girls have really taught me so much in terms of courage, in terms of overcoming situations, by gosh, that I couldn't even imagine. I could not imagine going through 100 of what those people have gone through. They've taught me about bravery. They've taught me about strength. They've taught me about forgiveness. If those guys can forgive and transcend, and if you haven't forgiven, forgiveness is such an important thing, because if you haven't forgiven people or situations, it shuts you down from moving forward. Forgiveness is a big one. It shuts you down from moving forward. It keeps you in a low vibration. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Doesn't matter what the situation is. If forgiveness is in your path, and you called to forgive someone that is unforgivable, that's between you and your creator. That's the sacred journey you've chosen to take in this life.
Love it. And thank you, Carol. Big hugs to you, and really appreciate your honesty. And I think, this is how we all learn and grow, is by sharing and being honest with ourselves about what we are feeling, because there's so much sort of spiritual bypassing and shame and, you've got it's just as easy as this. And it's not easy, because we're all going to feel, going back to always do your best, what we can do, our best is going to change, not just every day, but every hour within every day, because different things will push us up and down emotionally. And this is part of life's lesson, is learning how we handle that and let go of it. Now, we've only got, less than 10 minutes left. And I really wanted to cover, Chanti, and with everyone listening, please, about where it's saying be skeptical and learn to listen. I wanted to ask people what they feel about the listening part, because we automatically think that just means with our ears. But of course, we can listen with our energy, with our soul, with our heart, with so many other senses as well, and how we tune into that. Have you got anything to add to that, Chanti?
Yeah, it's exactly, as you say, listening is not just with your ears. It's observing nature, and it's observing, if you're walking in the forest, the little spider spinning a web, and you standing for 2 minutes watching the little spider spin a web might be exactly the thing that your heart chakra needs to open. That's listening. It's listening to nature. Maybe even listening to the sound of thunder, which gives you that feeling that might trigger something in you, and saying, wow, that reminds me of that, which triggered that in me. And that's what I'm saying. All sorts of little things like that. Listening with your ears. Yes, being a good listener, right? Listening to, not just sitting in class if you're a student, writing down what the lecturer is teaching you. Not just listening to what your mother's telling you, whining 100 million times in your ears a day, right? It's listening to your heart, listening with yourself, sitting in the morning and taking away, or coming home from work for 10 minutes, take away all social media and just sit on the couch with yourself. No tea, no drink, no social media, no phone, no nothing. And just sit And even if you're feeling as crap as anything because the bank is about to foreclose on you, or you're getting a divorce, or your child has run away, or whatever the case might be, just sit with yourself and say, how are you feeling right now? Oh, I'm in trauma. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Put your hand over your heart and just know. I mean, my mom, I told the story a couple of times this week. I mean, the other day she fell flat on her face here in front of me. It was the most traumatic thing. She tripped. She fell flat on her face. Her eyes are blue like this. Her whole hand bent back. How anything was not broken, I don't know. My mom's 84, but she's a very healthy 84. And and this is why I said to my siblings, I said, wow, thank God mommy looked after herself so well, because I can tell you something now in a situation like that, I can see physically. But, and then she was saying to me this morning, I'm so stupid. And I said, please, it breaks my heart when you're speaking down to yourself like that. I said, this is your body just saying, lie down, stop for a moment, your hand, full of swollen and purple, right? And I said, just lie on your bed with your hand on your heart for half an hour and just tell yourself how you love yourself. I said, if this was your mother, how would you treat her? And she looked at me and she said, very differently. I said, exactly. I said, you are my mother. Do you think I like to hear you speak like that about yourself? No, I don't. Please stop. Now, put your hand on your heart. Give your hand some love. Give your heart some love. And just be. And I tell you, I saw her this afternoon again. I went there and she's 10 times better. The swelling's gone down to half. It's amazing when you just decide to give yourself some love. It's beautiful, actually.
Absolutely. I love all of that. And I had an experience this morning when I was walking my 2 dogs in the horses field. And when you listen in complete silence is when you're going to hear so much that you need to hear, and just all your other senses will kick in. And I was so lucky because it was a huge, great field. And I just tuned in and I picked up something, and I just went, before I even saw anything, I went and put the dog straight back on the lead again, because then I looked right over in the far corner and there was a mum deer with 2 of her fawns there, which my dogs would have really chased. But my spider senses kicked in to pick that up before the dogs do. And this is how silence is golden is so true. So if anyone's struggling with these emotions, that just allowing yourself, get barefoot in nature, Carol, just sit there. But it doesn't matter how cold it is, whether you do it for 3 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you can manage, just regularly get out, ground, reconnect with the vibration of the earth, reconnect with yourself. And then you'll start to be able to let these emotions pass through you. And at times it will be easier than others. And that's what it's meant to be. I can't believe we're at the end of the hour already. I'm so grateful for those of you that have joined us in this chat. Really, really lovely to have you here. Any final words from you, Chanti, before we leave for this week?
Guys and girls, these are tough times. We know that. But, it's the way I see it is that it's the time that we kind of been squeezed out of our comfort zone. And we're either going to get suffocated in that place where we're not going to breathe and we're going to feel like we're dying and get sick and what have you, or we're going to say, this is the time to take the leap of faith. All of us are created from our Creator's divine energy. We have all the answers we need are within us. If we are willing to just take that moment, that quiet time with ourselves, and you might not get your answer now. If you're just willing to forgive yourself, your indiscretions, your screw ups, whatever it is, and just be less hard on yourself and just say, wow, I'm a beautiful human being and I'm here with a purpose and a reason. I don't know what it is right now, but show me. And I promise you, you will be shown. The right people will come along. The right book will come along. The right podcast will pop up on your feed that will take you to the next place that you need to be. And there are amazing people out there. I mean, look at these amazing our community. Our team, our tribe. you know, reach out to us. I love watching our viewers in the chat, right? I mean, the other day on Bryce's, well, we were doing the Sophia code, and it was the last one. And we were just chatting, myself, Bryce, and Thea afterwards. We just started talking about random things for Thanksgiving and pies and things that people are making. And we've come to this conclusion, and I'd love for you all to join us, by the way. We're going to be joining, and I'm going to be inviting a lot of the guests onto our channel as well, swapping recipes, right? Like from your cultures, like, you know, getting together, and just because I think this is such an important time that we can link up and communicate with each other and just enjoy a fun time as well. You know, like there's so much of this, well, you know, you can't use my hairstyle because it's not like that, you know. And I'm going, oh, please, you know, cultural appropriation, you know, let's share what we have, you know, let's get together, let's talk, let's laugh, let's have fun. You know, we're all a little bit narcissistic. We're all a little bit judgmental. We're all a little bit crazy in our heads sometimes. So let's just enjoy each other's craziness and enjoy each other's narcissism and enjoy each other's whatever, because it's what makes us human. And the way we get through that is to laugh at ourselves and to just, enjoy life. So do whatever you need to. Nature's a beautiful thing. Walk. I'm so grateful I have the forest and I have the beach. I have everything, and I enjoy it, and I'm living right on the island now. So just to walk around in the morning for me, do my yoga, do my stretches is a really great way that I keep my vibe high.
Love it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. So next week, please do go back and look at the ones the last week on Chanti's channel, the week before, where we really discussed the manifestation side of things on my channel. If you would enjoy this, I'd be really grateful if you'd like and share and make sure you're subscribed, because the shadow banning is very real, and that's the only way around these blasted AI algorithms, is to do that. So
Absolutely.
if you feel drawn to do that, fantastic. If not, no worries. Next week we will be back on Chanti's channel, Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa, and then the following week on mine. So please come back. We love these interactions. Thank you so much for those of you that shared today. We really appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you.